everybody, this is JDGaming, back today with a deck profile of one of my personal favorites. Every duelist has their favorite signature strategy, and Psychics over time ended up becoming that. I'll be honest, I wasn't the first or next or even reasonable person in terms of timeline in adopting the synchro mechanic. As someone who was content playing his 34 card fusion deck elemental hero strategy back in the day, I just didn't check out synchros and never really knew what I was missing out on. Then I found out about emergency teleport. I was like, ooh. I found out about Creebounds. I was like, ah. And then I found out about the Naturia synchros and overdrive teleporter and all that stuff. And now we are here today. And even in 2019, this is still one of my favorite strategies of all time. Fast forward though, and we ended up getting some new cards in recent sets that actually directly and indirectly support this theme. Cards like Psychic Wheeleder and Tracker and kind of a crappy Synchro Monster in a Savage Strike, as well as, the priorities. We got our foil upgrade to Predaplant 𝗍𝗍, as well as a rather unexpected release of Aromaseraphy Jasmine a couple years after the Link Vrains pack debuted in OCG, but who cares about the timing of it? We finally got it, and these cards actually do a great job boosting our consistency, speed, and just giving us a new dimension in what the deck is able to do with similar upgrades to combos that we've already been playing. So it's a lot of fun. I hope you guys are going to enjoy what you see here. And as always, this is going to be a Let's Build. I'm going to go through and explain my choices for things, why things are in here. But if this looks like a theme you want to play, but haven't really looked at them before, check out the eye card in the top right hand corner. I do have an in-depth introduction to the Banish Psychic theme on my channel already, and although it doesn't have the new cards in here from Savage Strike and beyond, the core elements are still the same, and that should be a good primer to get you up to speed with this synchro strategy. And if you're here just for the list, like many people are on the internet, check out the table of contents in the description box where I have a timestamp for different sections, including the A to Z profile you usually see. So there you go, you're welcome. So without further ado, let's build Banish Psychics. The first step in building any deck is to establish the theme and to build a core that supports your deck's goals. And interestingly here, although we're playing the same old kind of Banish Psychic strategy, we're gonna begin with some newer cards other than this first one. Emergency Teleport obviously is kind of the heart and soul of the Psychic theme. It's a quick play spell that allows you to instantly bring out any level 3 or lower Psychic type monster from your hand or deck. Yes, it gets banished if it happens to sit around without being used, which is kind of dumb. Why would you lose your monster like that? But it's an extremely flexible card during your turn and your opponent's turn with things like Ghost Ogre, and obviously you're going to play the maximum number of it. But as it was at 1, it was kind of a problem for the strategy, right? Until we finally gained yet another way for us to get some more speed and power into the deck. Starting off here with 3 copies of Psychic Wheeleder. Now this thing is a hard once per turn on its special summon, but it says if you control any level 3 monster other than Wielder, it could be Burning Abyss cards, it could be random things like Ghost Ogre, any level 3 in the game that's not named Psychic Wheeleder, you could special summon this card from your hand in defense position. Again, hard once per turn, but it's awesome because it's also a level 3 tuner monster of the Earth attribute, which means not only can you bring this thing out with something like Emergency Teleport, but you could finally go for something like Naturia 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍 without playing something terrible like Psychic Commander, because let's be honest, that card was only really ever played because of its Earth attribute. This thing also gives you a nice bonus effect. If you synchro summon with it, you get to go and destroy a monster your opponent has that has less attack than the synchro monster you summoned with Wielder, and that's another once per turn effect, but it's still a very powerful way to turn your 2-card synchro investment into getting rid of one of your opponent's cards, essentially bringing out a card as a 1-for-1, and then if you go and use its effect, attack over something, you can continually gain advantage off of that play. So very good card overall in terms of giving you your quick and easy plays, but also in giving you some resources. Next up, another new card for the strategy, Psychic Tracker. This is kind of the counterpart card, and although it's nowhere near as good in terms of its bonus effect, it only gives the synchro monster you summon 600 extra attack points. It does combo pretty nicely in that it's a continuous effect that's applied just to your monster upon summon, not activated, which means, let's say you summon out something with 2000 attack. It becomes 2600 immediately when you check for the Psychic Wheeleder, allowing you to pop something that's stronger than you normally would be able to. But the whole reason you play this, honestly, is it's a level 3 non-tuner Earth monster you could just drop for free with the same summoning condition of just having a level 3 monster monster on the field, essentially giving you now 6 ways that you can bring out monsters in addition to your 1 normal summon per turn, and that really just helps the strategy, especially because now we're going to take a look at the plant part of this theme, and we happen to have plenty of level 3 monsters that fit the bill. Starting off here with Lone Fire Blossom. This, of course, lets us basically go and joker our way into any plant monster, and the best one that I still have for this theme is going to be our Predaplant 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍. This thing, of course, lets you go and pitch a card from your hand, a monster, to the graveyard in order to special summon a Predaplant monster from your deck except 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍, and you can only use this effect once per turn, but as another level 3, it fits perfectly with our free summon level 3 monsters, and it's able to get a psychic monster into the graveyard, which, as any psychic player knows, is an important part of getting all of your free revival effects and loops to get started. So cost actually plays perfectly into this, sets up your new psychic cards from Savage Strike. It's all great here, and we're going to go ahead and play this along with our one 𝕿𝖆𝖇𝖑𝖊𝖓. So this thing is, for some reason, still not foil, even though this is the reason you would play this engine in the first place. This thing, upon being special summoned by a Predaplant monster, lets you fetch a polymerization or other fusion spell card from your deck. You could play additional cards in this strategy as well, like instant fusion, but I just went with the one brilliant fusion here. The whole point of this is, as long as this exists, you're pretty much never playing Brain Research Lab. Although Brain Research Lab is cute, gives you an extra normal summon for psychics, and it also makes it so you don't have to pay life points to activate their effects, even if they cost more than 1,000 life points. The issue is the card doesn't do anything, and as long as Brilliant Fusion exists in some like accessible capacity, which it does with the plant engine, you're going to see me playing this. This thing lets you instantly go ahead and fusion summon your Seraphknight, giving you an extra normal summon, sends something to the graveyard, puts a monster on board. It basically is Brain Research Lab Plus, and you can access it more consistently with the plant engine of 6 cards to bring this thing out, as opposed to the 2 terraformings and 3 Brain Research Labs. So all in all, better version of this strategy. And you know, in the past I always went and showed how this is a engine that lets you go plant monster and 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍, 𝕿𝖆𝖇𝖑𝗊𝗓, Seraphknight, and extra normal summon, lets you go for Saryuja Skull Dread. And this card is still awesome. It's still in here. You can still make it with the same plays. Lets you draw your cards, lets you special summon cards, and basically gives you all the zones you could ever want, as well as a decent power boost. So still a powerful card, but we actually have something new we're able to do. Don't forget, the big thing with this and this is that it puts 2 monsters on your board, but they're plant monsters. Yeah, Witch's Apprentice exists to take advantage of the dark attribute here, but the big thing I've been waiting for is 2 plant monsters to go right into Aromaseraphy Jasmine, because now Jasmine has a few really cool effects. One of its effects lets you search a plant monster to your hand if your life points increase once per turn, and that's good in like Aromages, I guess, along with some other fringe applications. But the whole reason you really want to play this thing is once per turn you could tribute a monster this card points to in order to have Lone Fire Blossom's effect hit your field. You could special summon any plant from your deck in defense position, and its effects aren't even negated. So this card is just nuts in the extension it's able to do. Plus, it does provide 2 arrows, which is perfect. You don't have to go Mrs. Radiant as your primary Link 2 monster anymore. It's just all around a fantastic card. And then if you happen to have other plant monsters, it does bestow protection onto itself and those monsters as well. But in this strategy, you're just using this card as a stepping stone to create your Gemknight Seraphknight over here. Because now once we have this guy out, we're sending our one Garnet to the graveyard along with a light monster. So something like your Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, who's going to be a psychic monster in your graveyard to allow all your combos to kick off. And then we go for the Gemknight Seraphknight, again, Earth monster, level 5. Perfect for synchro summoning into something like Naturia Barkion, or giving you access to level 8 synchros, easily level 7 synchros. And then the additional normal summon is a huge reason to play this card as well. But the cool thing is now, you potentially can go ahead and on top of the extra normal summon here, sack this or your extra normal summoned monster in order to go and use that free special summon of a plant. And if you go ahead and summon a plant monster from your deck, you're able to go ahead and upgrade your Aromaseraphy Jasmine into Summon Sorceress. What ends up happening in this strategy here is I'll go ahead and have Jasmine bring out a glow up bulb to to the field, turn 𝕿𝖆𝖇𝖑𝖊 and Jasmine into the Summon Sorceress, and then using the Summon Sorceress to point to one of your Psychic monsters. Usually it's the card you normal summoned off of Seraphonite, or heck, a lot of times I turn this thing with the Psychic Tuner into 𝕲𝐺𝐴𝐿𝐿 Omega. That ends up becoming a Psychic monster here, letting you bring out something. I'll talk about it a little more down the line, but let's say you go for something like this guy right here. You're able to go ahead and transform this card along with 𝕿𝖆𝖇𝖑𝖊, who comes back from the graveyard, right into Naturia Beast. Pretty much every single game that you open with the plant engine, you end up with Naturia Beast now. And on top of that, we have to think, okay, we could do an extra normal summon. Well, what's our best normal summon? Honestly, if we can get it to our hand and we don't get hit by Ash Blossom, Overdrive Teleporter is just an insane card. This card requires a tribute summon to play because you can't special summon him, because he'd be absolutely disgusting if you could special summon this guy. And he lets you once per turn, believe it or not. If he stays around, you can keep doing this turn after turn. Pay 2,000 life points to special summon 2 level 3 Psychic monsters from your deck. Has to be exactly level 3, but now we have a ton of good options. On top of getting things like Ghost Ogre, who, don't forget, is a hand trap, but also has that effect viable while sitting on the field. You can also go for monsters like your Psychic Tracker and your Psychic Wheeleder from before, and then that lets you go make synchro plays without expending your Ghost Ogres from your main deck. So, very powerful card in that regard. Made even better by the fact that now we have something to easily stepping stool up into. We have free monsters, extra normal summons, and more targets for this card to summon as well. From here, we're playing 3 copies of our Hush Psychic Cleric. This thing lets us discard a card from our hand, so get rid of dead draws and redundant things in order to tether to a Psychic monster in your graveyard that you banish, and then if this card is hitting the graveyard, you're able to go ahead and special summon that card back to the field. It can't miss timing, which is really, really awesome, and that lets you go ahead and bring back entire Synchro monsters. In the future, if we get something like 𝕲𝐺𝐴𝐿𝐿𝖓𝐿 as an example, for a Psychic Link monster, you could bring that back as well. So this card's only going to keep getting more and more powerful as long as we keep getting Psychic monsters. Doesn't care what it is, you can bring it straight back from the graveyard, which is absolutely phenomenal. And the fact that he's level 3 means you can actually play him off of your Overdrive Teleporter. That is why we're only playing 2 copies of Silent Psychic Wizard, on top of this trigger being the same effect but on a normal summon only, which yes, you can support, but you don't want to load your deck with too many normal summon cards. This card's a level 4, which means you can't special summon it out with Overdrive Teleporter's effect, but it is a level 4 Psychic monster, which again, with that Summon Sorceress, is able to combine with now 𝕿𝖆𝖇𝐑𝐊 in order to bring out your Naturia Beast, on top of all the other shenanigans you were always able to do. This card's great if you send Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit to the graveyard with Brilliant Fusion. This could be your normal summon, and then you link this off, and then you special summon Ghost Ogre, and then you continue your combos. Basically gives you a 19 body with an additional extension if you go and play it for whatever you need to do. So that's why we're playing a couple in here. It adds to the flavor and power of the strategy. And then we end up playing our, star hand trap, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Although this is a hard once per turn, this card is just so important in the strategy. If you're going second, you do want to make sure your deck is able to explode that second turn. And having the ability to send this as a hand trap to the graveyard to make all of those clerics and wizards live is a big deal. And again, don't forget, this thing works on the field, so even though it is a once per turn effect, you can use your wizards, your clerics, bring them back from the graveyard. You can easily tutor them out with something like your Overdrive Teleporter, or heck, even Emergency Teleport in a pinch can bring it out to your field. This card is just absolutely awesome. Definitely don't play less than 2 of this thing. You could get away with 2 possibly, but I just really love the consistency that 3 ends up bringing to the strategy, because even if you see 2 of them and you can't play both, you really care about getting the one to the graveyard. And finally, we play Esper Girl. Right now I'm not playing Psychic Jumper, mainly because the deck got so much faster with the new cards. There's even less reason to visit Serene Psychic Witch, and as long as Witch doesn't exist, it's kind of difficult to warrant playing Jumper. Essentially, this is your level 2 tuner that gives you resources anytime you use it as the target for your cleric or your wizard, and it comes back from Banish. You get to go banish the top card of your deck face down. You can of course look at it thanks to the ruling on Pot of Desires and face down cards. Your opponent can't look at it, and then when this card is sent to the graveyard, without missing timing, it will add that card to your hand, essentially getting you a free draw to cancel out Cleric's discard and giving you a plus in the instance where you used it with your wizard. So overall, very good card, and this card, along with Overdrive Teleporter, is actually a combo that will let you climb up through a level 6 monster into a level 8 monster like a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon if you need that kind of power. Next, we're going to transition into the section where we're going to look at some tech cards for the strategy. So starting off, we're going to play one Foolish Burial. This thing is just overall powerful. You already have Glow Up Bulb to instantly get something useful into play, but being able to hit things like Esper Girl or Ghost Ogre, depending on the scenario and what you want to revive, is always a good thing as well. So overall, a very powerful card that I still think is worth playing even with only a couple good targets in the deck. It's just so solid. Monster Born still in here, although we lost Soul Charge. This card is still awesome in being able to bring back entire Synchro Monsters, Link Monsters, whatever you may need for your strategy, and of course just being a combo piece in any other scenario where you don't have anything in the graveyard quite yet. Then from here, I like playing 2 copies of Crane. Yes, this isn't a Psychic monster, and yes, it also takes a normal summon, but it's able to unlock combos that Silent Psychic Wizard cannot do because it instantly has 2 guys on your board, and when you have a level 3 monster, that brings back a level 3 monster, and you can easily drop your Tracker or your Wielder, you're able to put together cards like Trishula out of nowhere, and, you know, that's just cool that you're able to basically normal summon into Trishula at any point. So I really do like the added power and consistency that Crane brings to the table. 2 copies seems to be a safe round number where you don't see it too little, but you don't see it too much where it clogs. And then similar case with Gigantes. This thing does need an Earth monster in your graveyard for it to be live, but again, very easy to do. And from that point on, it's a free special summon of a 19 beater, level 4 monster, so perfect for synchro plays, link plays, whatever you need to. And you can even crash it into your opponent's monster and have a heavy storm effect if it dies in battle. So overall, a nice little extender for our plays. And we're actually not playing Link Slayer anymore, mainly because Link Slayer, I mean, it's a good starter card if you have no board, but when you have Wielder and Tracker as both cards that are even better if you already have a level 3, I feel right now it's probably a little bit safer and more consistent to just go and build your board bigger, taller, rather than having a card that's kind of dead if you've already gotten started. The deck is so much better at getting started, you don't want to have that type of contingency play. Now, we're moving on to kind of our defenses. The last 5 cards here are going to be 3 copies of Ash Blossom, which, you know, you're already playing the Ghost Ogre. The Ash Blossom helps augment that. You could play Phantasma if you like as well, but there is a extra bonus in playing all these level 3 tuners in having cards like your Psychic Wheeleder, your Psychic Tracker, your Crane. Level 3 is really the best level for this strategy, and that's why Ash Blossom has even more utility in this theme than it would in some others where you just splash it in. And then the last 2 cards are Called by the Grave. This thing is just mandatory. You got to play it in some capacity, at least in your side, because if you get hit by Ash Blossom after many rounds of dueling, you'll notice that, you know, this card does save you if you play a couple copies in your main deck from having your Overdrive Teleporter just be a tribute summoned vanilla that costs you 2k life for absolutely no reason. So that's why we're playing the Called by the Graves. And now we're going to go over into our extra deck. So starting off, the key thing we want to begin with is our 3 Psychic Synchro Monsters. The biggest reason you want to play a level 6, 7, and 8 Synchro Monster that are all Psychic is because these are easily accessible levels of powerful monsters that can all come back from the graveyard with your Cleric and your Wizard effect. So that means if your opponent kills them, or you use them for further plays, you can go ahead and bring them right back so that you don't minus hard by using, you know, cards that normally take multiple cards to go into. 𝗍𝗍 is basically DD Warrior Lady who gets boosted with things like Mrs. Radiant, Psychic Tracker, and, you know, level 6 monster is awesome because you can always synchro summon up further using like your Esper Girl in the Overdrive Teleporter play to go for a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. And if your opponent kills this thing because they don't want to deal with a DD Warrior Lady that's going to banish their monster, great. It's in your graveyard, you bring it right back and continue making plays and threatening your opponent. So that's why this card's in here. At level 7, we have Psyframe Lord Zeta. Not really a popular card, not nearly as famous as his brother Omega, but essentially, Zeta has an ability that lets you take an attack position special summon monster your opponent controls along with itself, banish them for the turn, just like Omega, and then they return the next turn. But the cool thing is, every Link monster is going to be a special summoned attack position monster, allowing you to break apart your opponent's Link plays. And Omega probably needs the least explanation. He's Omega. He's annoying because he rips cards out of your opponent's hand, dodges like no other, and has the ability to recycle himself, along with disrupting your opponent's graveyard or reloading a card, all while being a Psychic monster, which makes him even dumber because now you don't have to just put him back in your extra deck and resummon him. You could bring him straight back from your graveyard in this strategy. So that's why we play the Psychic monsters here, and then from there, we're kind of free to talk about some other guys here. So we're going to have Mrs. Radiant is still a decent link too, just needs Earth monsters, powers up all your Earth guys, and if he dies, you get to add a card like Crane or Wielder or whatever back into your hand, allowing you to keep the resources flowing. So that's why we play Doggy. And then we play 𝗿𝗏𝖏 Dragon and 𝗿𝗏 Dragon on top of our 𝕮𝕆𝖊𝖊𝖓𝐿 for our link 4s, because this thing ends games and this thing just is really dumb. Your opponent's probably going to have to summon a 𝗿𝗏𝖏 to get rid of it. It's just really powerful game-altering cards that are really easily accessible in a deck that brings back monsters as part of its plays. So that's why we play both of these guys in here. And then 3 last Synchro Monsters to wrap up the extra. We play Naturia 𝗍𝗏𝖊𝖊𝖓𝐿 because we finally have a Earth level 3 tuner monster, which means we can go for this guy. Yes, we had Commander, but again, I never really was a huge fan of that card. You kind of had to play it because there weren't any good level 3s. No, Mental Seeker is not a good level 3 psychic monster. Like, your opponent never would have gotten that as a resource anyway. So yeah, you may occasionally hit a key card, but it's not really a card that's worth looking into. Wielder is good, extends your plays, kills cards that are already on the board, makes an impact, and now 𝗍𝗏𝖊𝖊𝖓𝐿𝐿𝐿 actually good because there are some trap cards in the meta that you may want to shut down. We got Black Rose Dragon because on top of it being, you know, plants in this deck to make your opponent's attack 0, attack into it, and then kill them out of nowhere, this card doesn't really have any downside to you when you play it because you're able to go ahead and float off of all your psychic monsters, meaning you mitigate the losses that you get from there. And we have our Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. I already talked about this, but essentially the play is if you have access to 𝗍𝗏𝗏𝗏, you could go for your Overdrive Teleporter, who brings out a tuner and a non-tuner. One of them is going to be your Cleric. Cleric, along with, let's say, Wielder, lets you go for your 𝗍𝗍𝖊𝖊𝖓𝐼𝒪th, and as long as you use Cleric to tether onto that 𝗍𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, you're able to bring 𝗍𝗏𝗏𝗏 back, trigger her effect to pseudo draw as you synchro summon up between a synchro and a tuner monster into your Crystal Wing. So now Crystal Wing comes out while you gain a free card, and you have that alongside your Overdrive Teleporter. So that's why this card is in here. You have a level 2 in a theme where your monsters come back as part of your main plays, and that's why it's in here. And then the last thing I kind of want to mention real quick is why am I not playing Hyper Psychic Riser? That card, as much as I wanted to like it, I just don't like it. It is a hot mess. Basically, it's a generic level 6 psychic monster that has some interesting control effects. Any monster that's weaker than it can't attack, and any monster stronger than it can't use its effects. Now the problem is, its effect is backwards, right? Because if it's making it so that weaker monsters can't attack, they weren't going to kill your monster anyway, and the stronger monsters can still run you over. On top of that, it makes it so no monsters that are stronger than it can use its effect, including your own, and that's just so restrictive. I'm not wanting to play a 1-card, you know, floodgate type of monster that's not actually going to floodgate your opponent. Yes, he does have a cool recovery effect that replaces both of his synchro materials when he dies, and yes, he's a psychic monster that you can keep bringing back, but those factors just weren't enough in that its effect was kind of mixed up. I see kind of why they kept him this way, because if they flipped him over, he could have been very OP, but he's just too, I guess, he has too many things holding his effect back that make him not as viable, and that's why we went for things like Naturia 𝗍𝗏𝗊𝖊𝖓𝗏 and 𝗍𝗍𝖊𝖊𝖓𝒑 for this particular strategy. If you watched the video in its entirety, thanks! Hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing this strategy and its creation as much as I have always appreciated this theme. We'll start off with the main deck here with triple Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, double Crane, lone 𝗍𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, then we got triple Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, double Gigantes, 1 Glow Up Bulb, triple Hush Psychic Cleric, lone Fire Blossom, Overdrive Teleporter, and then a lone Predaplant 𝗮𝖆𝖇𝖑𝐊𝐿. Then we're back to triples in 𝗼𝗓 Scorpio, Psychic Tracker, Psychic Wielder, and double Silent Psychic Wizard, and finally a Gem Knight Garnet to round out our monsters. And then for our spells, we play no traps. We play the Brilliant Fusion at B, Called by the Grave at C, E, Emergency Teleport, and F, Foolish Burial, and then we jump to Monster Born to round out the 40-card main deck. And then we have our extra deck, starting with Link Monsters. In Link 2, we just play Aromaseraphy Jasmine and Mrs. Radiant. Then we play Summon Sorceress as our only Link 3. Then we play 𝗿𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Dragon, 𝗿𝗏 Dragon, and 𝕮𝗆𝗊𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏 Dread at Link 4. And that's it for Link Monsters. We actually play more Synchro Monsters in this theme with Naturia Beast at level 5, 𝗍𝗍𝖊𝖊𝖓𝒑 and Naturia 𝗍𝗏𝗍𝗏𝗏𝗏 at level 6, Black Rose Dragon and Cyframe Lord 𝗍𝗏 at level 7, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon and Cyframe Lord 𝗍𝗏 at level 8, the Mighty Trishula at level 9, and our Gem Knight Seraph Knight for our Brilliant Fusion combo. That's it for now, but feel free to grab one of these videos on your way out. If you really enjoyed what you saw today, remember to subscribe to JD Gaming for more Yu-Gi-Oh videos. Thanks guys, this is JD Gaming, hope you guys enjoyed as always, and I'll see you guys next time.